The war in Ukraine has entered another critical phase. In recent developments, Ukraine has confirmed the use of Storm Shadow long-range cruise missiles against what it describes as Russian strategic military objects. The strikes mark a significant moment in the conflict, not only because of the weapons involved, but because of what they signal about the war's direction, escalation risks, and the evolving balance of power. This is not just another battlefield update. It is a strategic shift with regional and potentially global implications. In this video, we break down what happened, what Storm Shadow missiles are, why these targets matter, how Russia has responded, and what this could mean going forward. Part 1. What happened? According to Ukrainian officials, Storm Shadow missiles were launched during overnight operations against multiple high-value Russian targets. These reportedly included logistics hubs, command centers, and infrastructure critical to Russian military operations. While Ukraine has not publicly disclosed exact locations, the strikes are believed to have reached deep behind the front lines, an area previously considered relatively secure. Russia has acknowledged attacks in several regions, but disputes the scale of the damage, claiming that air defense systems intercepted or neutralized many of the incoming missiles. As with many incidents in this war, independent verification remains limited. But one thing is clear: the use of Storm Shadow missiles represents a deliberate escalation in capability and intent. Part 2. What are Storm Shadow missiles? Storm Shadow is a long-range air-launched cruise missile developed by the UK and France. It is designed for precision strikes against hardened and high-value targets. Key characteristics include a range of over 250 kilometers, low-altitude flight to avoid radar detection, high-precision guidance systems, capability to penetrate fortified structures. Unlike shorter-range artillery or rockets, Storm Shadow allows Ukraine to strike strategic objectives far beyond the immediate battlefield. This makes it a powerful tool, not just tactically, but psychologically. Part 3. Why these targets matter. Strategic targets are not chosen at random. By focusing on command centers, logistics depots, and infrastructure, Ukraine aims to disrupt Russian supply chains, undermine command and control, reduce Russia's ability to coordinate large-scale operations, and force Moscow to divert air defenses away from the front. These strikes are designed to slow Russia's operational tempo, not necessarily to capture territory overnight. In modern warfare, disrupting logistics can be just as decisive as winning a battle on the front line. Part 4. Russia's response. Russia has strongly condemned the strikes, calling them an escalation supported by Western nations. The Kremlin argues that the use of long-range, Western-supplied weapons crosses what it considers red lines. At the same time, Russian military officials insist that air defenses remain effective, strategic stability is intact, and retaliatory options are available. Historically, Russia has responded to such developments with a mix of increased missile and drone strikes on Ukraine, strong diplomatic warnings, and information campaigns aimed at domestic and international audiences. Whether Moscow chooses a measured response or a more aggressive one remains to be seen. Part 5. The Western Dimension. The Storm Shadow missiles were supplied by Western allies, primarily the United Kingdom, with coordination from NATO partners. This raises important questions. How far is the West willing to support Ukraine militarily? Are there limits on how and where these weapons can be used? Does this increase the risk of wider confrontation? Western governments have repeatedly stated that their support is defensive and aimed at helping Ukraine protect its sovereignty. However, Moscow views these actions very differently. This growing gap in perception increases the risk of miscalculation. Part 6. Strategic and psychological impact. Beyond physical damage, these strikes carry symbolic weight. For Ukraine, They demonstrate reach and capability. They signal resilience after months of pressure. They boost morale domestically and among allies. For Russia, they challenge the idea of safe rear areas. They force costly redeployment of air defenses. They create uncertainty among military planners. In war, perception often matters as much as reality. Part 7. Risks of escalation. With every new weapon introduced, the risk of escalation grows. Key concerns include retaliatory strikes on Ukrainian infrastructure, expanded targeting of Western-supplied systems, increased pressure on NATO's eastern flank. So far, both sides appear to be walking a careful line, pushing boundaries without triggering direct confrontation beyond Ukraine. Whether that balance can be maintained is an open question. Part 8. What comes next? The use of Storm Shadow missiles may not be a one-time event. Analysts suggest Ukraine could continue selective long-range strikes, focus on degrading Russian logistics before major operations, use these weapons sparingly to maximize impact. Russia, meanwhile, may adapt air defense coverage, harden strategic sites, intensify strikes to reassert deterrence. The battlefield is evolving, and both sides are adjusting rapidly. Conclusion. Ukraine's use of Storm Shadow missiles against Russian strategic targets marks a significant turning point in the conflict. It highlights the increasing sophistication of Ukraine's capabilities, the deepening involvement of Western support, and the growing strain on Russia's defensive posture. This does not mean the war is nearing its end, but it does mean that the nature of the war is changing. As long-range precision weapons play a larger role, the conflict becomes less predictable, more complex, and potentially more dangerous. The world is watching closely, not just to see what happens next, but to understand what this moment means for the future of modern warfare. Conclusion. Ukraine's use of Storm Shadow missiles against Russian strategic targets marks a significant turning point in the conflict. It highlights the increasing sophistication of Ukraine's capabilities, the deepening involvement of Western support, and the growing strain on Russia's defensive posture. This does not mean the war is nearing its end, but it does mean that the nature of the war is changing. As long-range precision weapons play a larger role, the conflict becomes less predictable, more complex, and potentially more dangerous. The world is watching closely, not just to see what happens next, but to understand what this moment means for the future of modern warfare.